Today what we're going to look at is how to braid with elastics. There's also this stuff called quick braid. You can use hairspray as well. I'm not going to use it today, I don't think, although the pony that we're going to braid has a really short mane, so we might put a couple squirts in, but the bottle is old and not spraying so well, so that's why I wouldn't use it today. Plus the braids don't actually, today they don't have to stay in very long, just for a few hours for a dressage test. This is a pulling comb with a hoof pick, but I use it to divide the mane in sections. And a lot of people also have a hair clip to keep the other pieces back. And these are the little elastics that we're going to use. So they're just little rubber bands. And you can get these in most tack stores that carry English supplies. This is the pony that's going to get braided. Hey, buddy. And he does a whole bunch of different things. He's a very good pony that wins a lot of things. But you can see his mane is really short. And it's quite thick. So these are probably going to be, this is kind of the hardest type of mane to braid. When you're looking at doing a good job with braids, there's a couple key components. One is that the mane is as even as possible in terms of thickness. If you have it so that a lot of times in the crest of the neck, the middle part of the neck, the mane will be thicker. So you want to pull that out and make it even if you're going to do perfect braids. Otherwise you'll get tiny braids at the top and tiny braids at the end. The other thing is evenness and where you put the elastics. It's actually not as important to have perfect braids as it is to have perfect spacing. That'll look better. And that you put the elastic in the same spot in each one. You're going to make you look good there, buddy. Okay, so let's get started. You start at the top or the bottom. I'm going to start at the top, and I often do with horses because they tend to be the fussiest and you have the most patience when you start. And so if you get the hard part done first, it's all smooth sailing. Okay. Okay, so the first thing, take the hay out of the comb, I just dropped it, is I've been doing them about a width of the comb. So I just take the back of the comb, divide it down, okay, and then I comb it out so that everything's laying flat. Now, the horses will rub a lot more if you make this uncomfortable, so take the time to make it lay flat so that they don't try and rub their braid right out as soon as you put it in. So then you divide that section into 3. And they have mane dividers that it's like a little pick with 3. I forgot to put that out. But I find that they tend to make a wider, too wide of a braid section, especially for a mane this short. So you're just braiding this down. And you try, this part you keep looser so they don't rub, but this part you try and get as tight as possible. And again, you'll find horses some of them have wiry hair. That's harder to make the braid stick. So then you take the elastic, it's caught between my fingers, you take the end, you try and braid it as far down as possible, but you just twist it up and down, or sorry, back and forth. And then when you get it fairly tight, oops, I broke the elastic. That happens, so then you just try and go back to where your braid is still tight and redo it. But what I was going to say is I take the tip and try and roll it in, just because in the next step, it'll be easier. Now, where do you keep your elastic? Some people keep them in their hand, in the pocket, in their fingers. I keep them, this is gross, but I keep them in my teeth because it's easy to stretch them out between your fingers that way. It's up to you. Okay, so there's the braid done. And then you just continue. The thing to watch, again, I said it's not so important that these braids are perfect, and believe me, these are not perfect braids, but that they're evenly spaced, and then when you roll them up, that's evenly spaced. That will make good looking braids. Of course, if your braids are perfect as well, they look even sharper and neater, and it's all better. But sometimes it makes it just the way the mane is. It's really hard to get them perfect. And like I said, with the thicker hair, the shortness, and the slipperiness, I can't be too hard on myself with this. Right, Ferg? Now that they're at this stage, what you do, for these braids, it's working to fold it in thirds. So you fold the tip under, then fold it again, and then you want to get everything lined up. And the key is, here, is to put the elastic in the same place each time you roll up a braid. So if you put it sometimes at the tip and sometimes at the base, you're going to get different angles of how your braids will line up. You take the braid, you tip it under once and twice. Some manes, if they're a little longer, can be 4 times that you might do that. And some manes, if they're shorter and thicker, you can just do it in half. It also depends on what you want the braid to look like hanging down. If you have a longer piece hanging down, they'll twist, they might twist easier, but if it's a thicker mane, usually that supports it. And then you just, it's the evenness that will look good. Okay, this is how it turned out. How to do braids on your pony. Now the forelock is done the same way, or this is done with a hunter style braid. So we'll learn that if you watch my video on how to do a hunter braid. These ones are good for big forelocks, and so they lay a little flatter than if you did it with elastics. Okay, so you can see they're not bad at all. He looks good.